This is the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, Show 95, The Hiccups with Hiring, How to Build Your Team. Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Tired of putting in long hours doing what everyone says you should and still not making money? Sounds like you're ready for Lifestyle Builders. We'll help you get back on track, taking action, and seeing results. Head over to joinlifestylebuilders.com today to get started. All right. I am pretty excited about this one as we've been getting a lot of questions in the Lifestyle Builders community. Just in general, I've been seeing this float around a lot more. People are struggling with hiring.
Well, and here's the thing. It's one of the biggest challenges that I've seen historically. I see with a lot of entrepreneurs that we work with, especially too, because a lot of people like in their traditional job likely haven't been exposed to how to hire people or how to interview. And if they have been, most of the people do it terribly. Like I can't tell you how many, like I used to,
Tell us how you really feel.
One of the things I used to do is do like mock interviews. I would interview for jobs just to see how people did it. Most managers are terrible at interviewing. They ask the wrong questions. They focus on the wrong things. And I've just seen this happen so bad in corporate and then often with entrepreneurs as well, just because they don't have the experience. So very excited to be able to share this and help you guys, especially if you're going to make that first hire, because that is one of the most difficult ones to make, where you transition from I'm doing this myself to now I'm going to hire somebody in, and now I got a team that I've got to add all this other stuff in that I'm responsible for.
Before we jump in, quick, what was the best job you've ever had?
Probably working at a pizzeria, given that I love
you were going
pizza.
To say that.
No, but for real, part of like in, kind of going with the theme of this episode, it was a really fun job. I mean, there were days like this pizzeria I worked at was so popular that like there were days where like the line would be out the door for hours, and it was hot, it was chaotic. But we had a really good team, and our managers built a really good environment. So we would like test out different pizzas and just have a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
That's not surprising at all that you said the pizza place. That was going to be my guess. My best job I ever had. I did have a lot of cool jobs, but my favorite was probably when I worked at Abbott's, which for those of you who are not from Western New York, Abbott's is a frozen custard chain, ice cream chain. But this ice cream is like the best ice cream you will ever have. It's so smooth and creamy because it's frozen custard. It's not traditional ice cream. And working there, I got to eat as much of it as I wanted.
I was gonna say, is it funny that both of our favorite jobs revolved around food that we love to eat?
I didn't actually eat a lot. People were like, oh my God, did you eat it all the time? And I was like, well, no. I had it in little bits, which I think allowed me to not get sick of eating too much ice cream, because that is totally a thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was a really fun job. I knew like some of the people I worked with. I got to work with some family members, which was really fun. It was a small little shop, so like there's only ever a couple of us working at a time. It would get really busy with like lines out to the parking lot. But it was fun, and I got to kind of get my hand at management a little bit, because as I worked there summer after summer, I became kind of like a seasoned employee. So I got to like open and close the store and like make the ice cream. So
and that's a really good point too. What a lot of people miss is that, if you're still in a job now, or if you're working for another company, there's a lot you can learn about the topic of hiring or building good teams from your existing environments. And I don't think a lot of people take enough advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Well, because most of the time you don't think you're ever going to need it. So it's like, kind of take it for granted a little bit.
Well, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably going to need it at some point. So you should probably listen.
All right. So first things first, let's just jump into some of the common problems that people come up against when they are hiring.
Yeah. The overall biggest issue is people just hire the wrong people. And what we often see is that somebody like either they're burnt out and they need to hire, or they just like hire the first person that seems like it fits the bill. So they hire fast, but then when things aren't working, they hold on to that person way too long. Like I can't tell you how many clients I've had that when we kind of go through and do like a team audit, they just like say how bad this employee is and all the challenges they have, yet they still have them and they've had them for a long time, even though they've known this. So that's by far the biggest one that I see.
Yeah. And I think that's hard because there's, it is tough to find that fine line between employee and owner of the business and people that are kind of friends, because maybe you knew that person or you get along well outside of the business and you like them. A lot of people struggle with kind of being able to cross over from, well, outside of work, you're really cool and I like you. Inside of work, it's just not working and I have to fire you.
Well, and
it's a really uncomfortable position.
Well, here's the cool thing you guys are going to hear throughout this episode. I have hired and done like hundreds of interviews, and I've managed, all sorts of different people. So I have a very different take on hiring than like Ariana has just doing it like through our businesses. So like to me, I actually have an easier time with friends because I'm holding them to a higher expectation and I know that they respect me, whereas some random person doesn't. So it'll be interesting as you guys listen to us because you're mentioning things that a lot of people struggle with, and I'll give you guys some of the other perspective of where I actually don't struggle with some of the common things.
Yeah. I think there is the issue of management in itself. Most of us, as you kind of mentioned in the beginning, haven't ever had to manage other people. Maybe you have in your job, but you've also got people managing you and it kind of goes down the pipeline. So you're getting expectations from those people about how you're supposed to be doing your job and how the people below you are supposed to be doing their job. When you're the top of the pyramid and you're supposed to be managing other people, oftentimes you can fall into the trap of micromanaging, which is looking over everyone's shoulder to make sure they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing and they have to do it your way because your way is the best way, and like going down that rabbit hole. Or the issue of not managing people enough and then having people who have no idea what they're supposed to be doing. They don't know what expectations are set of them. And then when you're unhappy with what they're doing, there's that gap of, okay, well, you didn't tell me I was supposed to be doing that. So I see that a lot with management.
Well, I was going to say exactly to your point. It's usually one extreme or the other. It's either I don't trust you and you've done a bad job, so I'm going to tell you what to do and then watch every step of it. Or it's that I don't really know what to do. I don't really want to manage. I just want you to do it, so I'm going to give it to you and then not support you at all. And neither one of those is good.
No.
I mean, one of the worst situations I was in, I had a person that every day she would sit down with me and she would make me plan out every half hour of my day, and then she would come and check on it. And it was like the worst environment in the world. So don't ever do that. But a lot of this comes down to the first thing we said, which is hiring the wrong people. And it also comes down to you as a leader, because what you want when you hire people, most people hire them and give them a job or give them a task, and that person does that task, and then they come back to the owner, the manager, and says like, what's next? So what this causes for most like leaders or business owners is now you've got like one more person to like deal with, and you can't do your stuff because they're always coming back to you. What you want to be doing is you want to hire somebody that you can set expectations around the result you're looking for, and then give them the autonomy, the environment, and the support to achieve the result. But they now take ownership of it rather than you just like giving them a task list to do.
Yep.
So there's a book. I'm already getting to a book. So there's a book out there called Drive, and it basically talks about like what motivates employees. And one of the key ones is autonomy, the ability to, have space to do it kind of your way. The other one of that is then mastery, to be able to continue improving. And oftentimes when people hire, they don't provide those opportunities, so people aren't fulfilled or happy at what they do.
Yeah, and I can totally see this too, as when you move into entrepreneurship, there isn't really a manual on some of the different stages and the levels that you get to as a business owner. So you might have to seek it out yourself and say, okay, I'm getting to the point where I think I might be ready to hire some people. maybe I should go and find a book that talks about how to manage a team, how to become a leader, how to communicate, like some of those skills that you maybe didn't come from a traditional 9-to-5 job with.
Yep.
You may have to do the extra work and learn about that so that you can go into being a manager and an owner with a team better than trying to like learn along the way and fumbling along.
Here's one of the biggest pieces of advice that I tell people along those lines. Like if you're leaving, let's say, a corporate job, one of the best things you can do is go find an entrepreneurial company that you would love to work with, because you're going to learn so much by like, how do they hire you, right? How do they onboard you? How do they build a culture? How do they manage you? What things do you like and don't like? And then you can take that into your company. So you're not having to do it all like on the fly, or like, I mean, books are great. Like I love reading books, but especially when it comes to this type of stuff, there's only so much you can get from a book. So much of it's got to come from experience and seeing how other people do it well and not well.
Find a mentor, find somebody who's doing it, and you can kind of shadow them for a little while and just ask them questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really common problem as well, is just, going from a point where you've never had to be a leader and you've never had to manage people to all of a sudden you have 1 team member, 2 team members, 5 team members, and you are responsible for that unit of people. And all it takes is one little thing to go wrong or to be off to throw the whole rest of your business off.
Yeah, and I'm not going to dive too deep into it here, but there's definitely a difference between being a leader and being a manager. A leader is going to be more of the inspirational, the supporting, the guiding, whereas a manager, so they're going to be more like bigger picture driving forward, where a manager is more the day-to-day kind of task type. As a business owner, you need to have elements of both, but out of anything, it needs to be leadership. And leadership, like the method I always teach people, is called servant leadership. So it's where you're actually saying like, how can I help? Like as a business owner, one of your most powerful questions is, hey, Ariana, how can I help? How can I help you be happier, be more successful, be more fulfilled? Because when you know what your team needs and you provide that, you're going to build like, a great team, a great culture, and then have success in your business.
2 more common problems before we get on to the next topic area, which you just touched on a little bit. Thinking that the hiring process in itself is different for online versus offline. Now, this one we've seen a lot in the last couple of years, because obviously we came from the offline space and jumped into online. And I have been flabbergasted a number of times by the number of people who think that online business is drastically different from offline business.
That's different. You guys don't understand.
Hiring is the same whether it's offline or online. Now I get it's going to look different. There are going to, exactly. Obviously you're not standing in front of the person, because if you're hiring a virtual assistant that's in a different country, you're not going to be in the same room. But you're still going to get on a video chat with them. You're still going to ask them questions. You're still going to make sure that they're a good fit for your company and your vision and your core values. Like all of that stuff should be the same. And you should be asking some of the same questions that you would ask an actual employee. I don't care if it's a contractor, virtual assistant, copywriter, graphic designer, like whatever it is. You ultimately, if you're hiring this person to be a bigger part of your company, like a contractor that's going to stick around for a while, or an actual, assistant that's going to be your right-hand person, you need to know all these things. You need to do it the same way as if you were hiring an employee in your physical business.
Nothing else to add.
I love it. All right. And lastly, hiring before your budget can cover it.
Yeah, and this is kind of a double-edged sword.
It is,
because,
I
know. You need to be, you need to hire before you're at like burnt out and at capacity. But you don't want to hire too soon to where you're then not going to be able to pay them and have to let them go.
I think part of it's like truly understanding what roles you need to hire.
And making sure that you're hiring for the right things. Because to be honest, like when I see people that want to hire and I go through like the list of things they would have that person do, one, a lot of that stuff shouldn't be done anyways. And 2, like here's a quick tip on like what you should be looking for. When you hire anyone, whether it's a tool to do a job or a person to do a job, that should either be freeing up your time to do more valuable things or ultimately making you more money, directly relating to sales. If it's not doing one of those two things, be very skeptical of hiring. And we've even gone through this when we've looked at hiring, we'll have a list of things that we need to get off of our plates. And then as we go through it, we look and we're like, that would be great to do, but it really doesn't make sense to hire because it's not going to have a major impact to either give us more time back or ultimately lead to more sales. So, it definitely is a fine line of finding the right time and having the right set of things to hire somebody for.
Yes. I feel like it's better to hire somebody after you need them than it is to go and jump in and hire before you need them, because that just causes issues.
Yeah, well, and the other piece of that too, so let's be super clear on this. You can hire somebody for a one-off job, which you should likely do. If you're not an expert at building your website, you should not try to build your website all by yourself. So hiring a contractor for a one-off job is different than hiring somebody on an ongoing basis.
Correct.
So they're usually and especially with that, because you typically know the budget and all of that. So that you can usually do sooner. But when you're going to hire somebody on for an ongoing position, that's more what we're talking about here.
Yes. Good clarification. All right. So you talked about this a little bit, but let's just jump into kind of how to approach building your team. Because not all of us want to be solopreneurs forever. We want to hire out certain things that we don't like, that we shouldn't be doing because they're not worth our time, but they're, things that need to get done in the business.
Well, and let's just talk about this solopreneur, I will call it myth for a while. So what tends to happen is people say, oh, I don't want a team. I don't want to manage people, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. If that's your mentality, you're going to be tied to your business for the rest of your life.
Yep.
You're not going to be able to take a vacation. Everything's going to fall on you. You're going to do stuff that you don't enjoy doing. So hiring a team should be making your life easier, not more difficult. The challenge is most people don't go through the stuff that we're talking about here. They hire the wrong people. They don't look at themselves and how they can lead. So they have really bad experiences, say, well, I'm just going to do everything myself. I'll tell you, that's going to be a tough life for you, and you're not going to be able to be a lifestyle builder if you're constantly doing everything yourself for your business.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point.
So with that, the biggest thing with hiring a team is making sure that you have people that are a good fit for you and your company. And that comes down to what most people do is they hire for skills. I need somebody that can sell, or I need somebody that can, run my operations. The first thing you want to look at is, are they a good fit for your company and your team? What do we mean by a good fit? Do they believe in the mission of your company? And if you don't have a mission, that's something that you should get. This doesn't mean that it has to be all corporately and wordsmith so that nobody really understands it. What it means is why do you exist, right? As the founder of your business, what are you who are you helping? What are you changing in the world? Why do you exist? And when you get super clear on that and you're hiring, the people that you want to bring in are people that also believe in that mission. Because now, I get questions all the time, how do I motivate people? Well, guess what? If you have the wrong people and you're trying to motivate them, that's going to be an uphill battle. But guess what? If you have somebody that works with you that loves your company, loves the mission, you're not going to have to motivate them. You're just going to say, how do I support you so I can get more of that motivation you already have? So that's what you're really looking for. And you're looking for someone that fits your core values. So for example, our number one core value is do the right thing. If we're talking to somebody and we feel and really what that means is integrity, right? So if we feel like somebody's out of integrity, we're not even going to go through the rest of it. Because
they could be the most
they don't align
at what we need in the world, and we wouldn't continue because that right there is an automatic no.
Absolutely. So if you ever heard hire for the right fit, that's what people are talking about, is make sure they're a good fit for you and your company. And that's ultimately going to save you so much later on.
Piggybacking off that, make sure that they're a good fit for your working style. We talked about this on a previous episode with personality tests and assessments and how that can help you succeed in your business and your life. this is also a big part of building your team, is making sure that you have people whose working styles are going to complement each other instead of like bring people at head to head. So obviously this is not a cut and dry, oh, well, this personality style doesn't fit with this personality style, so they can't work together. It's more of getting an idea about somebody from their personality assessment. Like, okay, well, typically what kind of communication style do they have? What kind of personality do they have? What kind of problem solving traits do they have? And then taking that into account with actually talking to that person and interviewing that person to see how that plays out in their actual personality, and saying, okay, well, do I think that this person over here and this person over here are going to work well together? Do they fill the gaps? Like, this person's strengths are these and this person's strengths are these. I think that they will mutually benefit each other because their strengths are different, and they'll help each other and bring each other up, as opposed to having people on your team that are so different that it's hard for them to come together, and they don't communicate together well. They don't communicate with you well. They cause issues that then for you as the owner, you have to deal with those issues. So it's just another piece to think about. And a lot of, you may have seen it with the book Traction that came out. A lot of people talk about being the visionary. A lot of owners and business entrepreneurs that are building businesses are like the visionary for their business. And a lot of them are hiring integrators, which are the people that are pulling together all the details. They're helping you manage kind of like everything that's going on. Maybe they're even managing your team. So it's kind of like, it's like that, knowing enough about yourself and enough about your teammates to really build a team that's going to support your business and your company.
Yeah. Well, and I like the thing you said there, don't just like, personality tests are informative, but don't just take that, take it as part of the entire picture. And there's a book called Good to Great. And one of the key things coming out of that book was you got to get the right people on the bus. Mm-hmm. And they basically said you got to get the right types of people into your company. And then you mentioned Traction. One of the things that Traction has is they call GWC. So when you're looking at like who should fit in what role, there's 3 questions they ask. Do they get the role? Do they want the role? Do they have capacity for it? And a 4th one that I usually add on is that do they have the authority to succeed? Because a lot of times what will happen is that, to your point, if you micromanage, even if they have the first 3, if you're not giving them the authority to succeed as well as to fail in that position, mm-hmm. and coaching them through it, you're going to limit your team and their ability to succeed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is such a key point as we go through this. The other thing I just want to point out too, if you do have a team, have your team talk to this person as well. One of the things we used to do when I was working with a lot of corporate clients was if we were bringing someone in to, let's say, fit on a product development team, we would actually have them experience what the team is like, what the working environment is like, because here's the other thing you want to look at. When you're hiring somebody in, are they more entrepreneurial where they're going to I get bored if I'm solving the same problem over and over again. Like I can put a process together. I can do something a couple times, but if I have to do the same task over and over again,
drives me nuts.
It is torture for me. And so that's why there's tasks that I'm suited really well for. But on the flip side, the person that is really good at doing those repetitive tasks in the details, that person's a really good compliment for me.
Hello.
So what you need to then figure out is this person you're hiring and the role you're looking for, are they going to be bored in that role, or are they going to excel based on, what kind of environment they want?
Mm-hmm. A lot of entrepreneurs struggle with hiring people because they tend to want to hire other entrepreneurs, but then they don't want, it's kind of like that, like you said, a double-edged sword. You want to hire people who understand you and who understand your mission, but it's really tough to kind of grow as a business if, that person kind of wants to, they want to go after their entrepreneurial tendencies on the side and build their own business, and you don't necessarily want that.
So I'll take a little bit of a different approach. I do want that.
No, I'm saying it's tough because people go into that.
Well,
and it's a tough role.
And so once again, I already warned you guys, this is going to come out. We have some differences here. I look at everyone we bring in, I want to take them to a better place. And so like when I used to hire within corporate companies, one of the questions I'd ask people is like, all right, where do you want to be in the future? And I would get super honest, because even if they wanted to go work at another company, most managers wouldn't want to know that. I would rather know that, because I want to help that person and I want to create a win-win. So I want them to get to wherever they want to be, and I want to have them help the company while they're there. So part of that is when you understand the motivations of somebody and you're supporting them, it's counterintuitive. They're going to actually support you more.
Mm-hmm.
So I had people that told me they wanted to go work for another company, and they ended up staying with us because they love the work environment. They love the support. They love the team members. So when you understand their motivations and you support them in that, it can actually turn into like this hidden benefit that most people miss out on.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm of that mind. I'm saying I've seen in the community, in the entrepreneurship community, people struggle with hiring because of that weird role where they want somebody, they don't know how to do what you did.
So I'm going to tell you, those people are typically bad leaders, because you need to bring people in and help them whether or not they stay with you. Here's the reality. Most people are not going to stay with you. People don't stay at jobs for a long term.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? Even the entrepreneur who wants to do their own thing, they will stay with you if you're a great leader and a great company and you do the things we talked about before, which is them aligning to your mission. Because here's the thing about true entrepreneurs. They care less about where they're working or whether they're working for their own company. What they care about is, am I solving problems? Am I working with a great team of people?
Hashtag Tom Truth Talk, the triple T.
Wow. There you go.
Had to call that out. He is obviously very, very passionate about that.
Well, and you know, like I said, I've got a lot of experience with this, and most people do this wrong, which is why most entrepreneurs and business owners
Struggle
and leaders struggle. Exactly.
All right. And last, well, I guess not really last, but a little bit of both. The biggest thing that I've seen and we've seen together is when you bring somebody onto your team, the most important piece is how you kind of onboard that person, which the first two things you should be worrying about onboarding somebody is communication and expectations.
That second one you hit on is one that is missed every time. And let's talk about what expectations are. Let's set some expectations on expectations.
Set some expectations on how we talk about expectations.
So expectations mean, like if Ariana was getting hired in, I would look at, Ariana, here's my expectations of you in this position. You're doing this, you're doing this, you're asking for this. What expectations do you have of me in this position? And one, most people don't set expectations one way, but they often don't ask for them the other way. Because here's the thing, if I tell Ariana, not that I would ever do this, if I say you got to be to work at 8 and she has this expectation that she can roll into work at any time, there's a difference there. And right away we can identify that and then work through it and say, let's get aligned on expectations. Yep. If we don't ever ask what those are, we've got these expectations that are out there, but the other person doesn't know, it's going to cause a lot of issues.
Like you're going to come in every day and be pissed that I'm not there at 8 o'clock. And I'm going to come in every day and be like, he seems kind of testy, but whatever, I'm going to do my work for the day. And like that will build.
And over time, you get further and further away. And now
the conversation is super awkward to have months down the road, as opposed to if you had just brought it up and said, okay, wait a minute, I think we have different expectations here. Let's talk and come together.
Yeah, I mean, when I work with like new coaching clients and they're struggling with a team member, one of the first questions I ask is, did you set expectations with them? And oftentimes the answer is no. And I'll say, okay, if you were to let this person go today, would it be a surprise to them? And oftentimes they'll come back and say, yeah, it would be a surprise. So what that means is that you likely didn't set expectations and you likely haven't been giving them feedback, probably because you never set expectations, and those are hard conversations.
Yep.
But here's the thing. If you set expectations, the second piece of that is, how are we going to check in on if the expectations have been met? And what are we going to do if they're off?
Yep.
Now,
and
if you do
when
this,
do we check in and shift them as we talk about them?
Exactly. Because now when you do that, a couple things happen. one, you are aligned on expectations both ways. Two, you're aligned on when you're going to check in and what the criteria is, and you're aligned on how you're going to handle it if it's off. So if next week we check in and we use that criteria and it's off, we both know it's off, and we've already agreed on the path we're going to use forward. So now it basically gives you an easier job as a leader to be able to give feedback and say, hey, Ariana, last week when we chatted, this was what we had talked about. What's the current state? Well, it's off. Okay, so let's work through how we're going to get things back on track. We're doing it more often. We both expect it. And then you don't have these small things that become bigger issues.
Yeah, and communication, I mean, obviously that tags on to the end of expectations, but you have to be active and proactive with your communication with your team members. Because as Tom said, like, you might be thinking one thing and you're just assuming that they are reading what you're thinking, and they're not. And if you don't communicate about that, you're causing yourself to have resentment. You're being more stressed out than you need to be. There's going to be issues caused because you don't bring it up and communicate through things. And I think there's going to be hard conversations. Like, you can't avoid them in your business. They're going to happen. The more open communication you have around issues popping up or miscommunications or misunderstandings, the better off you're going to set yourself up for future misunderstandings and miscommunications, because it takes that weirdness out of it a little bit, because you know they're going to happen. Like, it's normal in any company to have misunderstandings between team members. But the more and more you get people used to doing it and bringing it up in meetings and having that open communication about it, the better off it's going to be, and the easier it's going to be to resolve those things.
Yeah, well, you talk about communication. We actually, with every company we work with, we set up a cadence of communication. And you guys have probably heard us talk about this before. There's a daily meeting where we sync up on things. There's a weekly meeting where we reflect and then we plan. There's a monthly meeting. There's a quarterly meeting, and there's an annual one. All of those are set in place so that we have this consistent communication. We clearly know what we're going to talk about and what we're going to look at each of those meetings, and nothing gets off too long or too far in between having those communications. Because once you have this in place and it's a routine, it now makes your business run so much easier than trying to do everything ad hoc.
Yeah, and you jumped right into the next section, which is talking about some tips and tricks. When you're building a team, when you're hiring, here's some things that can make it easier. Those meetings right there, especially doing like the daily, you used to call them daily stand-ups because you actually would stand up at the physical location.
Yep.
We like to call them daily check-ins now because we need not
and
necessarily
you might have,
standing.
you've probably heard of this before, and if you haven't, here's what it is. It can be called a daily huddle, a daily sync, a daily stand-up, a daily check-in. Whatever it is, it's typically a short 15-minute meeting to just get aligned.
Yep.
And there's 3 common questions that you can use just to start, and then you can always adapt it. Like, all right, what got done yesterday? What are we planning on getting done today? And what's in the way? What that does, if you're just a solopreneur, it helps you reflect on yesterday, plan today, and have your focus so that you don't get lost and get to the end of the day like you haven't done anything. If you have a team, it now helps your team sync up, and maybe you're struggling, and I don't know, but now with that daily meeting, I know you have an issue and I can help.
Yeah.
Or maybe we were going to work on the same thing and we didn't realize it. Now we can collaborate, or one of us takes it. So there's all these benefits to just having something like that each day.
Yep. And we talked a lot about communication. One of our favorite communication tools for your team is Slack.
Yeah.
You've used it in...
I use it in like every business.
Pretty much we've used it in every business for the most part. And it's just a really easy, quick way to have all of your team members in one place instead of trying to do group texts or group Facebook messages or group emails.
Yep.
Slack is, automatically that is a communication right there. That's all it is. So you can have channels that talk about different topics. You can have private messages back and forth. You can have... you can integrate it with other things like Trello cards and Google Drive and your CRM. So depending on how big your team is or what things are involved, Slack is a really good way to kind of bring it all to one place that everyone communicates about everything in.
Well, and here's the big thing. So a lot of like email is one of your biggest productivity wasters. And the challenge with email is you get a giant bucket of everything. With Slack, you mentioned those channels. You can have different channels for different types of conversations so that now your conversations are focused.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, you might have like 10 different channels for your team, but you only need something from one channel or you need a specific thing. So you're only going into that one. You're not necessarily having to check every other channel. So we won't go too deep into that, but Slack is a really good tool, especially if your team is remote and not in the same physical location.
Correct. Another fun one is I want Tom to give you his 2 favorite questions. We talk about this a lot with our lifestyle builders.
Yeah.
He's got 2 questions anytime he goes to hire somebody that are really, really simple, but really, really powerful questions.
Yeah. So you guys will notice that I like to condense everything down into a couple simple things. And the 2 questions I ask anybody I interview, and I start the interviews off this way, are the first one is, tell me your story. And this may seem really weird, but here's the thing. It's a very open-ended question, and I learn a lot just from how somebody answers that. So what do they focus on? Like, do they start like, hey, I was born, blah, 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 and take me through the whole life? The things that they highlight help me kind of see like what they think is important. It lets me see how they communicate. It lets me just understand, like, do they give me
long-winded?
Yeah, do they give me a 2-second? Do they give me a 2-second answer? Do they talk for 30 minutes about their entire life story? So there's a lot that you can pick up kind of in between the lines just by seeing how somebody responds to that. And then the second question is, all right, so why are we chatting today? And this is, it may seem like a stupid question. Well, I want a job, duh. But what it does is most people don't expect it. And so as a result, they're usually very honest, because when they say that, it's like, well, I'm looking for a job for this, or, I'm trying to get some experience here so I can do this. You'd be surprised at what comes out there. And I'll tell you, from those 2 questions, I usually have a really good sense of if I'm going to hire somebody, if this is somebody that would be a good fit, etc. Now, just like everything else, the answers to those 2 questions are going to give me some really good insight, but I will then go on further based on what we're trying to do, like who we're hiring for, check on some of the other fits. But I can usually even tell like some of our core values if they're in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
But those 2 questions, like if you might feel a little awkward asking them because it's like, this is weird. Like, why am I doing it? But I found them to be just so effective.
And the last little tip or trick that we have is to have fun with your team. Maybe even if it's just one person, but like do team building exercises, do go and have retreats or do fun outings. Or if you're remote and your business isn't making enough money to take your whole team on a retreat, jump on Zoom and do like a 20 questions game and just hang out and find out more about each other and like turn the business switch off for a little bit and just be people. And it really helps you get to know them on a deeper level so that when you do come together to work together, you're now going to be giving them things where, it's like, oh, well, they fit this role, but I also know this about them and them personally where I can support them better, or they can support me better as the owner because I learned that they're really good at this one thing that they totally forgot to mention. It gives you closer together. And it's a really fun thing to do. This is talking about back to that motivation. What keeps your team motivated? What keeps people around you for the long term is going above and beyond. It's not just a job. It's not just a gig. This is your business that you're building. And if you're building your team members into it, that gives you all a much better chance at success in business and also in life.
Yeah. I mean, I can't overemphasize this one. Like, to your point, like people are the most important thing. And to truly be a good leader, you've got to care about people. And part of that is just doing these things beyond work. Like, when I would help companies facilitate offsites or when we do ours, we take them to different places. We do fun things and we get to know about each other.
Mm-hmm. We've taken our employees for the wine and liquor store on wine tours and to wine tastings. We make sure we do a get together every year around the holidays.
Yep, we do a Christmas party. Yeah.
Sometimes an after Christmas party.
Going and playing golf or doing stuff outside of that to get to know people as people.
Mm-hmm.
It is truly powerful.
Yeah. All right. So actions for today. We want you to share with us. I want you to come and post up what's something you're looking to hire someone to do in your business. Come and just post it up. Just declare it to the world.
Yeah. Well, and part of that too, when you do that, is it forces you to then think about the other.
You're telling them the secret.
Forces you to think about the other pieces that come up with it.
It does.
All right. So I want to hear your guys' experiences with hiring. Like, what have you hired just all-stars where it worked out so well? And, what do you attribute that to? Or have you had just terrible experiences with the hires? And what did you learn from that? Because we can all learn. And this is something that, all of us struggle with. And even now, like even doing all these interviews and stuff, it's still something I struggle with. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Leave a comment down below wherever you guys are watching or listening to this and let us know what are some of your experiences with this.
Yeah. And if you are looking for help with hiring and team building, obviously we've got this guy over here and all of his genius. We're going to be putting an action plan together in our Lifestyle Builders mentorship because our current members are already asking all sorts of questions about hiring, which is what inspired this episode. But we're going to be putting together an action plan to sort of help people walk through the process, kind of identify some of those things and really prepare them to start bringing a new person onto their team. So you can find out more about Lifestyle Builders at joinlifestylebuilders.com or here on the show notes page at tomandariana.com/95.
All right, book for today.
Bookshelf. What we got?
So I always struggle with hiring books because a lot of them are just there's lots of steps to it. And a lot of them are typically catered towards like larger companies. But this book that I have for you guys today is called Who.
I totally thought he had a typo on our notes page.
She was like,
the book was.
I'm like, who?
I was like, what's your book today? He was like, who? And I was like, no. What's your book today?
But what this book does, it gives you a lot of the really good foundational stuff, not only theory, but also practicality of what you can use. So some of the stuff that I talk about is in this book. There's some different stuff that isn't. They talk about like common mistakes and like I talked at the beginning about these terrible managers that hire. They talk about like these 10 different like not personality types, but 10 different like roles of like bad hiring managers. But it's just a really good book to give you the foundation around hiring that you can then build off of and cater to like your style.
All right. It sounds like an interesting book.
You should read it sometime.
Yeah. Okay. It's been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and lifestyle builders.
And as always, I want you guys to remember that it's your life, your business, your way. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Bye. Hey, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you know another entrepreneur who may benefit from hearing this show, we would so appreciate you being a good friend and sharing it with them. Are you dreaming of a life of financial freedom and more time to spend with your loved ones? Want to build your business to support that dream? You need Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. Become a lifestyle builder at joinlifestylebuilders.com. Are you a Lifestyle Builders podcast fan? We'd love to hear from you. Head on over to tomandariana.com/iTunes and leave us a review.